Hi, well, welcome everybody. It's the old man ranting from the kitchen. Well, of course, you'll notice I'm not in the kitchen. I'm back in the back room studio, hiding out, trying to stay out of sight and mind. This is a beautiful Sunday. Normally, I'm on Facebook Live, but unfortunately, I have to change things around because Facebook and I don't seem to stay alive. That's for sure. Well, what we're going to talk about today is something that really bothers me. Now, first of all, I'm new to the show, so it's a little difficult to understand well what I have actually been up to. You see, I'm the actual Kiva man, and the Kiva man is simply the guy that has something to say all the time, but never knows when to shut up. You know what I mean? I'm a podcaster, podcast publisher, and producer of podcast shows on the Disruptors Podcast Network. And it's really a pleasure to be here. It's interesting to show the world that actual old people like myself, before the stage of, I understand what somebody's going to say, dinosaurs, was really, not retired. That's a good word I like to use. And the old man running from the kitchen actually did start in the kitchen. That's the truth. Now, how long ago? Well, it's been over 54 shows. And now we're moving to podcasting and really having a great time doing it. Now, I've got this back room kind of set up, and you'll probably notice that there's a lot of stuff hanging around here, a lot of acoustical tiles and stuff like this, simply because my neighbors don't want to know what I'm doing. They prefer not to know. Some of them think I'm a little bit. In fact, the other day in the studio window, as I call it, which is a beautiful, beautiful view of the backyard and the dog. Well, anyway, beautiful view of the backyard. He was out there looking around, and all of a sudden his wife comes out of nowhere, and she kind of peers in. She said, "Oh my God, there's cameras, and look at all those microphones and lights and all that stuff. Wow, do you think he's doing what I think he's doing in there? Could this be a pornography studio?" Well, when I got done laughing and picked myself off the floor, I shut the blinds. I thought that was enough of that, Nora. Nor am I going to listen to that. That's terrible. No, we're a family show, I guess. We talk about politics. We talk about a lot of stuff that's going on today. And, well, I'd like to really understand how things go if you don't know what your community's talking about. Now, the basics of our podcast is to completely start a conversation about community, about family, about our country, what we feel is wrong and what we feel is right. And we've done a couple of shows here on YouTube, but I decided it was time that we kind of step up and try this one more time. So we're going to stream this live, as you can notice. And before I get started today, I'm going to talk about a wonderful interview that I did on Friday with a very special lady. Her name was Carolyn Rodriguez. Carolyn Rodriguez is probably one of the best Latinos female singers that I've heard in years. She's right up there. If you're into the music set, you'll understand. She's up there with Selena and some of the greats. And it was a real pleasure. She was coming back from a show in Eastern Washington, headed back our direction. And we were lucky enough to have her stop by and just sit down and chat a little bit. And a good friend of mine, Ed Cortez, from our other show, The Power Hour on Spotify, was there, and he did the interviewing for me so I could run the old technical equipment and make sure everything was going well. We had another rapper with us too that's well known on the YouTube circuit, and that's Dream. He was there also. So it was a real pleasure to listen to these folks talk back and forth about the industry and the business. And it was kind of like a flashback for me because many years ago, I had the opportunity of working with some of the local stars here in the Washington area. And it was really kind of a lot of fun to just kind of reminisce, remembering some of the greats that I'd worked with before. So I don't think that there's any time in your life or anybody else's life that you don't dream about, well, where would I be 15 years from now? What about if I stayed with it? Would I have been a big promoter in the industry of music or whatever? And as I listened to what she had to say, now remember, I was promoting music working with the Sony Corporation way back in 1969. No, there was no dinosaurs walking the street. I had to explain that to my grandson. And there was no other problems that I could think of. Maybe I could think of them. I'm not sure. But it was a whole different time, and I got to meet some of the superstars because podcasting was not at all available. It was AM, FM radio. That was it. And there was nothing going on with like YouTube or any of those things. You could get on some of the local cable shows. Now, cable was just rolling in. In about 1969, it came in strong. And there was cable studios being set up in the Tacoma area. A lot of entrepreneurs set up recording studios when they were recording on, the old 45s and the LPs, the big vinyls. And everything has changed since then. Now we're digital, we're online, and the whole story of how things go together electronically, naturally from that time period, changed. So as I listened to her talk about the 20 years that she has been in this industry, I was amazed, absolutely amazed at the way that she really was so genuine, so down to earth, so type of person that you want to talk with and you really feel a connection with. Some of these celebrities you don't. They're so far up here and you're so far down there that you don't feel that feeling of building a relationship, not just as a fan, but building a relationship as the person that you want to really say, hey, I know that person. I've met her. Great interview. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that Ed Cortez was nice enough to invite me to the gala event. It really was. Now, Mr. Cortez runs Salve TV and Unity car shows throughout the state of Washington. He's also the president of LUDAC. What is LUDAC? LUDAC is the Latino Born American Citizens Organization, which is growing. It's all over the United States, representing the rights of Latinos. And it's a great organization. So it's a real honor to have his show on our podcast network. We are found, by the way, if you're looking for us, there's several shows. I do Kiva Live, and we have several good shows. I leave the Kiva Live on the side. You know how that goes. We have Dr. Troy Munson, Revealing Wholeness. Good show to listen to. And some others that are really very, very good. Angie on the Road to Recovery is one of my favorites. Angie is my hero. She has gone through what I consider hell on earth. And she has a great story, how she pulled herself out of it and what she's doing today and how she can help others by reaching out to them. So wonderful, wonderful show. These, as I mentioned, shows could be found on your favorite podcast platform. We're on 12, I believe, at the last count. So take a look for us. We'll be talking more about the shows as time goes on. Now, what is today's riff that I have? Well, I think I want to start a discussion. Now, everybody in the news is talking about the virus. Everybody's upset about the virus, the vaccine, and all this. And I was going through, because we've done several different shows, and I thought, I don't want to go back into that virus thing again. I mean, between the politicians, the police department being defunded, the crooks, all this other stuff that's going on, I didn't want to go through it. I wanted positive stuff, because on our network, we want to be positive. But something came up and I had to bring it up. I just had to bring it up. There's a gentleman that worked back east at I think it was what we call a meteorologist or a weatherman on television. 33 years he'd been with this organization. And of course, that is a big company. And we all know the mandate that the President Joe Biden has placed upon this country, trying to fight the pandemic, trying to slow it down or stop it. Or, on the other hand, trying to get his ratings up a little higher. After Afghanistan, he needs all the help he can get. 100 people have to be vaccinated and weekly tested. This gentleman said no. 30 odd years of working at this institution, and he gets his walking papers because no unemployment, just you're out the door. That's horrible, folks. That is really horrible. He talked, and there was a little article that made the USA Today newspaper, and he talked about the fact that he said, why wasn't I involved? Why didn't I want to have the virus and fight this with the vaccine and go through all this? And have I looked at both sides of the coin? Have I looked at the technical and scientific and the medical and all the other information? Well, yes, I have. And I thought the best way I could explain my side of the argument is simply this way. If you went in and bought a brand new car, it's always warranted, isn't it? Every part on that car is warranted. And even down to the brakes. But let's think about something for a moment. If that car had a warranty, but the brakes, the manufacturer of those brakes said, no, I can't put a warranty on that, you're going to have to sign a waiver that says that if my brakes fail, you can't sue me. Then, I think that's a reason why I wouldn't buy the car. Now, if you really look at this realistically, when you go to get your virus taken care of, get your shots, what do? They give you a paper and you sign away your rights so you won't sue them. Because 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years down the road, if something we hope will not go wrong, goes wrong, then you have no legal stand. You just, poof, and you're gone. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. The question to me is, why don't the manufacturers of this drug have the confidence that at least 96 times or percents of that drug is not going to cause future effects on anybody? I can understand that. I mean, okay, 96%, that's telling me. Now let's take a look at the reason why it, disclaimer, I couldn't sue. Let's go back to an outfit called Johnson & Johnson. Yeah, I think this kind of parallels what I'm trying to say here in a roundabout way. Johnson & Johnson has made baby talcum powder forever, and talcum powder forever. And through science and breakdowns and the changes that we've discovered, that talcum powder that they have been manufacturing has caused women to have cervix cancer. All of a sudden, after all these years, all the pieces went together, all the cover-ups, all the pieces went together, boom, there they are. So they're being sued, and rightfully they should be. If they cost human lives when they knew that the corrections were not made, that they boycotted and stayed away from that whole situation, because remember now, at the bottom of all our advertising, what do they say? We're a family company. Well, that family is basically murdered millions of people simply by covering up and making the profits. You got to keep those bottom line people, those investors, got to keep those pockets full of change. If you don't have change in the pockets, you don't have investors. If you don't have investors, you don't have products. And you're out of business. As simple as that. So I look at it kind of a different aspect. And I often think to myself, what are we going to do? Are we going to go ahead and just sign our name to protect our income? Mm-hmm. So we can protect our homes, our future, everything that we worked for all these years and build up, simply because the president says you will do this? Well, George Washington in 1777 said to his troops, not to everybody, but to his troops, because a disease was sweeping the country. You have to have a vaccine. You have to get the shot. If you don't, you're not going to be in this army. It was as simple as 1, 2, 3. I thought about that for a minute. I thought, wow, he was a founding father. He was the first president. Wow, there's got to be something to this. Now, I've always said that the founding fathers of this country did wonderful things. They sat down because they had beliefs, they had goals, they could see the future. Amazing, amazing things they could do. And that they would sit down around a table, drink a beer or whatever beverage at that time, and they would have a conversation, and they would put pieces of that conversation together, which produced what? Action. Right off the end of their noses came information from their mouths, information. And they put it together like a puzzle, a great big puzzle piece. It was amazing. I sit there and I think about it to this day. How could they ever have the future foresight to build the greatest and the most powerful country in the world simply by just sitting having a simple conversation? What has happened with this virus, I think, is that the situation is that we have not had that conversation. We've had, let's see, confusion. We've had technical information that was never scientifically broken down so we could understand it. We've had, it's the oxygen that you breathe, the oxygen. Oh, right here. The oxygen that takes into your nose all the time that you breathe has this bacteria. I mean, that's the way they came out. And when you spit or something, if you are a carrier of that bacteria that affects your lungs, then you're going to give it to others. Okay, if that's the way it works, that's fine. But where did the bacteria come from? We still don't know. How is it transmitted? Well, through the air, from one human to another. None of this really goes together in a simplified form of saying, okay, it is the environment or it's elements of the environment. It could be elements of the food. Who knows? All we know is Dr. Fauci, never come out. I probably showing disrespect for the gentleman, apologize, tells us horror stories constantly about how everybody's going to 17 months ago, we closed the economy down. We were going to stop this because then we could build what they called the herd effect, and that would slow it down. Everything would be fine. It didn't occur, did it? Because all of a sudden, a new strand came in and wiped everybody out. There were stories that came up from people that have theorists, well, this is the Chinese going to kill us, and the Martians are, drop bugs on us. There's a whole bunch of theories. My goodness, I tell you, on the show, we're very fortunate. We get a lot of information that comes into us daily on the internet concerning just this, the virus and what it's doing, concerning our rights, concerning the economy. You know what this all rolls up to be? Fear. And that's right. Dr. Munson has a good show also called Revealing Wholeness, and he talks about fear on his podcast. So please check it out. But he's absolutely right. The senior citizens are fearful. We can't go out and enjoy life. But not just us now. It's affecting our children. They're getting scared to death. Whoa, I don't want mommy to get sick. I want to go to school. I want to be with my buddies, and I want to play, and I want to be a part of the school activities. But I'm so convinced in my mind of the fear factors that everybody's, the mask and hiding from people, in the child's mind. It's not staying 6 feet apart, it's hiding. It's not what they were born into, the world they were born into. And most of them, when they are in the ages of anywhere from 3 to 16. It's a whole big different change. The economy, let's take a look at that. It's flopping. The hospitality and restaurant industry and all those little industries that are compiled onto that are dying fast because they can't stay up with the mandates, the change, the new strands, the old strands, the new requirements. It's costing them customers, it's costing them time, it's costing them money. So they have to continue to reinvent themselves. Hey, DoorDash and all those door delivery of foods and items companies now have sprung up from nowhere and are doing a wonderful job. They're filling in because they know the need is there to move the product and they have the way to do it. And that's great. It generates jobs. But on the other term, a large restaurant, it's pretty tough. Now, I was just at a bowling alley the other day that half of it's closed down almost a year and a half ago. That was their lounge and their big bar area and their banquet room, all just like, I guess it would be a ghost town because the furniture was sitting at different angles, but nobody had been in there for years to use it. When I talked to the new gentleman that took the restaurant over, I said, well, how do you think this is going to work? And he says, I really don't know. He said, I back when I had the money and time, I always had wanted to do this. And he got involved in another business. He made some money. But then 2020 of March, bango, state of Washington shuts down. He's got enough money to sit on. But then what am I going to do? He goes and takes another job and waits. And patiently, this opportunity came up for him to take over this rather large bowling alley with the banquet facilities and all that. And he was happy to do so. And he got rolling because we'd gone from level 2 to 3 and it was looking good. And then all of a sudden, the governor from Tinseltown, Olympia, where the world's largest daycare center is located, that's Olympia, bam, shuts everything down. Well, we haven't really shut down, they keep saying. But yes, in October, we will have shut it down because a lot of people in this state alone are not vaccinated and they're not going to be vaccinated. They don't believe in it. So what are we going to do? Now, if you get a situation upon you as a restaurant owner and you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, they've been authorized not to get a shot because of religious believing, health or otherwise. How are you going to pick that all out? Because you're going to have a man at the door now that's going to say, okay, card please, or you can't come in. Mask on, card please, and update, and got to take your temperature and make sure you stay 6 feet behind everybody. The tables are all laid out so you have plenty of room, which costs the restaurants money, let's be honest, but they're all laid out. And then you get in, you sit down, and what's the first thing you do? You take your mask off and you're happy. Waitress comes over with the mask all over the place. I mean, she's masked out. And you're lucky if she doesn't have a shield on and rubber gloves. Who knows? This is not real. Polio took over this country way back when. And vaccines have been going on forever. And that's the truth. I can remember, and I'm no young chicken, but I can remember when I first went to school, I had to have tetanus. I had to have a whole bunch of shots, polio, and other shots. And I remember very well having to go through those procedures. So this vaccine thing is not new, folks. You know what the problem is with this vaccine thing is? It's everybody is so much inclined to be PC correct, which I'm going to do a video on one of these days. And they're so wound up over the factor that, well, if something happens to Mabel, I'm going to sue them. I'm going to have me a mansion in the sky right there because Mabel was my honey, and that mess done her in. So I'm going to sue. That's the problem. We sue for everything nowadays. Let's take that out of the vaccine controversy. Do I think it's right that they should have a written statement that you can't sue them? No, I don't. Do I think it's right that they mandate you have to do this or else you lose possibly your home, your family, and everything else because you've decided that you have the right to say what goes into your body? No, I agree with them. You have the right. What's going to happen in the future, I'm not sure. Keeping my fingers crossed that this great country can survive this negativity and start a better, brighter day. Well, this is my first show. I really appreciate it. We're going to repost this on Facebook. And our new method of madness here at the Disruptors Podcast Network is that we would like to continue with our Facebook journey. And what we'll be doing is we'll be posting these shows also on Facebook so people can watch them. So remember, I always tell everybody, keep a positive thought in your mind. Keep it set positive. And love in your heart, you'll always keep us smiling. Thanks for being with me.